The Ramblin Tea House is an entertainment-only podcast, meaning we're for entertainment only. While laughter is the best medicine, it's not the only medical attention you should be seeking.
We have the same amount of medical degrees as WebMD, which is to say,
none.
Here at the Ramblin Tea House, we endeavor to handle all topics as respectfully as possible, but to err is human.
So please tip your waitress, be out by closing time, and please don't park over the line.
People are gonna hear us talk now, which I mean, that's what they came here for, so.
I mean, I think they came here for the pie and the booze.
You're not wrong. That's exactly why they came here, but we paid for that advert space. We said live entertainment.
We're gonna use it.
It's not my fault nobody else will play here. It's slightly my fault nobody else will play here.
I mean, you are kind of in charge of booking because making phone calls scares the shit out of me. So yeah, I'm gonna put that on your shoulders.
I called everybody though. No one would play. Not even the spoken word guy.
I was just gonna say, what about the spoken word guy?
Yeah, and we paid him real money.
Not even.
I mean, he refunded us, but yeah.
How could he refund us? He was more broke than we were.
I know. He was so bad anyway.
He was so bad.
So bad.
No George Watsky to be seen.
Yeah. Also, you can only see so many people gyrating to synonyms for light before you go crazy, so don't ever go to community college spoken word night. That's all I can tell you.
Were you just really bored, or did they promise? They promised you free coffee, didn't they?
There was free food. Yeah,
there was free food.
It was actually just a plate of like half-assed carrots and some punch that was questionable. But yeah, they had coffee.
Questionable as in was there alcohol in it, or questionable as in is that flavor aid smell like cyanide to you?
Questionable, like, I don't think anybody should ever have drank that punch. I don't know if it has ever been good, like past due date by a couple centuries.
Oh, that stale punch.
The stale punch.
It's got that film over the top of it. And
yeah,
like,
kind of looks like antifreeze. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so
definitely flavor aid and cyanide.
Yeah, they were too poor for Kool-Aid.
Were they too poor for Kool-Aid, or did Kool-Aid not like sell down in South America?
No, they were just too poor for Kool-Aid.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe Jim Jones thought that name brand products were all part of the capitalist
yes,
hellscape.
But free-for-alls for getting around those pesky, trademarks. A little bit more capitalist.
I think it's bad that when people make don't drink the Kool-Aid jokes, my initial response is, guys, it was Flavor Aid.
Yeah. You do. I've watched you make that joke a couple times.
It's not even a joke. I'm just correcting them because they're wrong.
Yeah. But your reaction is 100% humor. What time is it? We should get up on stage. Oh shit, we should get up stage 5 minutes ago.
Today's special at the Ramblin Tea House is a pig's foot marinated in juniper berry vinegar served on a buckwheat pancake.
That sounds disgusting.
Well, it's period accurate.
So, you were telling me, you had a whole thing planned for today.
I'm going to do right by my freshman English teacher, and I'm going to spend this entire bottle of mead talking about Shakespeare.
Yes! I just know he's a dyslexic inspiration because if you can't find a word, make him up.
Him and Edgar Allan Poe, man. Whenever my mom tried to correct me on my spelling of words like necessary, I would say, if Edgar Allan Poe can make up tintinnabulation, then I can spell necessary however I want.
With how many C's or S's or I's you can fit in there. We know what you mean, Lily.
Nick's getting over a cold and I made her into work anyways.
Fucking Kevin, man.
Fucking Kevin! I told him more than once if he made out with a raccoon, he was gonna get us all sick.
Yeah.
But that didn't stop him.
Fucking trash panda.
I think my favorite thing about them is their little hands and how they'll wash their hands before they'll pick up their food.
Because they're clean.
Little gents.
They are. They're little gentlemen. They always wear their suits.
They always wear their suits.
Yeah, make sure it's all pinstriped. Anyway,
Side
I
note.
just need to be known that I did not make out with the raccoon. I just had to stand in someone's vicinity.
Who had made out with a raccoon?
I have never and will never make out with a raccoon because I have standards, Kevin.
Yeah, she's talking to you. Is there any other Kevin in the room? No, there's not.
Don't raise your hand, sir. Continue. Shakespeare.
So, I literally do not know where to begin with Shakespeare because you could talk about so many sides of it, but I feel like a good place to start, because I'm not going to talk about it a lot, is the fact that he wrote his plays. Like, I don't know how else to tell people that
The writer was the bard was a writer?
that the author was the author. Yeah, I don't know. And the thing is that claim has validity now because we don't realize that the first time that claim of another secret author was made was over 100 years after Shakespeare's death.
Yeah.
So it was long after he had gone, and people were starting to make conspiracy theories about him, like, oh, was it him? Was it Marlowe? Was it Queen Elizabeth herself? Gasp. It was
obviously Queen Elizabeth's love child, okay? We all know this.
I mean, are we talking about her love child with one of her courtiers, or her love child with the not-so-pirate, definitely a pirate, Walter Raleigh? Like, who we just...
Both. They
Both.
Conspired together.
They had the same...
They had one trench coat.
3 noblemen in a trench coat.
That's exactly what happened.
Three rich white guys just walked into Queen Elizabeth's bedchamber with a hat and a trench coat. Hello, madam. We need to produce an heir.
That's exactly what happened. Everything you know about Shakespeare is a lie. It was 3 men in a trench coat. Full on Little Rascal style.
So, the first thing I learned when I really started learning about Shakespeare was that it's not as lofty as we think it is. We always think,
There's so many dick jokes. It's ridiculous.
thank you. Dick jokes, alcohol jokes, syphilis jokes. Like, he loves talking about all the gross things that you weren't supposed to talk about. And I think part of that is because a lot of Shakespeare's work was influenced by the arena in which he performed his plays.
Yeah, the layman, the everyday.
You got the cheap seats down in front, and they're literally right by the stage. There's no, even now after the rebuilding of the Globe Theater, which is not in its original location, it's just a little bit down because there was like houses there or something. Apparently it's like rude to kick people out of their homes.
Hasn't stopped anybody yet, but whatever.
The cheap seats were known to bring not-so-fresh produce with them just to throw at the stage in the event that it was garbage. And then you had...
You just gotta let him know.
You just... I just saw this crap. And then you had the rich people who actually got seats with cushions, too. Mm-hmm. Really, really living that high life. And you couldn't use all lofty verse, or you'd lose the audience. But you also couldn't have just nothing but prosaic dick jokes, or you'd make the ladies up top and their husbands who funded you just, no, blush, oh I.
It's okay. She was sleeping with the main actor anyway.
You can usually distinguish which lines or scenes are intended for which section of the audience by identifying whether they're prose or verse. Prose is a little more straightforward. You'll find it in the common characters, like you see it in the nurse in Romeo and Juliet, you see it in Snug the Joiner and the rest of the theatrical cast in Midsummer Night's Dream. Basically any person that's not nobility speaks in this prosaic way that would have been rather natural and understandable to the people on the ground floor. And then you can see it really specifically anytime Shakespeare uses fae, or characters from another world, or anyone who's particularly lofty, or not from our plane of existence. They always use this really ornate verse style that you can literally see when you look at the text, which I'm actually going to get out my Shakespeare, see if I can see it here.
I thought that was to throw at people who weren't being good. Oh well.
You don't throw books at people, they'll damage us fine.
That's why you buy the cheap books.
No! The books don't deserve that.
It's true. Humans are filthy. Now, I'm just saying, it's very interesting growing up around University Town that has a whole season dedicated to Shakespeare. Mm-hmm. You learn a lot more about it, and it's less in schools.
Yeah.
And more just kind of things you pick up.
Yeah, and also I think the big problem with teaching it in schools is a lot of times it's taught in English classes and not theater classes. A lot of people brush off Shakespeare or don't like Shakespeare or I don't understand Shakespeare because they have to read it, and Shakespeare was never meant to be, or it's not Lord of the Rings. You don't sit down and read the dialogue and just have your cup of tea and go about your day. It's meant to be performed. It's a script.
Yeah, well, Tolkien also did that. He used high language and low language.
Yeah, because he was influenced.
Because people are different.
Yeah, Snug the Joiner is going to talk different than Titania, Queen of the Fairies, just like Samwise Gamgee is going to talk different than Galadriel. It's the same principle.
Yeah.
It's like humans aren't cardboard cutouts. It's weird. I don't know.
Lilli?
What?
We're in the Matrix. We all know it. Just
God damn it.
you need to accept it.
That's why they're getting rid of payphones.
It is. Or were there ever payphones? So what was the thing we were looking up?
You can literally see the differentiation in dialogue on the edges of the text, and the more simple dialogue tends to have smoother edges, whereas the more complex verse-like dialogue tends to be kind of jagged because of the rhyme and meter.
It looks like the difference between a G-rated fic and a M-rated.
You know, Nick, you don't have to call me out like that.
Hey, I was an editor for people. I saw some things.
During the 2000s and the
During-
vampire years.
I don't want to talk about this
I
anymore.
remember I asked you if you were going to be okay with editing some of my fics because they were explicit in nature. And you literally just passed me a post-it note that said, Lilli, I edited fics during the early 2000s vampire era. Only Anne Rice would.
She sued her own fans and then used some of that material. Anyway.
That's literally
It's fine.
the worst thing I've ever, like, I can't fathom suing.
She's the reason that those types of sites, a lot of people still use disclaimers.
Yeah, like, I don't own this. This is not, what's the word? Supported by the original author. This is not an official, like, licensed product. And new people to the internet are like, why do you have to do this? Like, we get it. And no, you don't. You don't understand.
I fought Douglas Adams in a parking lot and won the duel, so I can write about whatever I want. Anyway.
I feel like Douglas Adams would actually duel you, like, with swords at dawn, with a, like, referee.
Yeah, but it would have to be like the Mars Dawn or some.
It would also have to be, like, squirt guns full of fruit punch or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Something ridiculous.
Yeah. Also, no matter what, he wins. So.
He has to.
Yeah.
It's Douglas Adams.
So Douglas
Isn't
Adams.
he dead?
Yes.
Oh.
Very much so.
Yeah,
I was just double checking. He
Just
is in
making
fact
sure.
dead. I'm just making sure, and he's dead.
I mean, Douglas Adams is the kind of person who I could see who would fake his death just to, like, fuck off to the Andes somewhere.
I hope that's what happened. I know it's not, but I hope that's
Like, I don't
when my
care if-
cousin's guinea pig died. We said it went to England.
Why would the fuck would your guinea pig go to England?
It went to England, Lilli.
Why?
It went to England
Why would you tell
Because-
somebody that? And why did they believe it?
because she was very young and she knew what happened. She knew what was going on, but we all just agreed, like Santa Claus, to believe that.
You just
The little
believe.
magic. You just believe.
You hope a miracle happened. It probably didn't.
Yeah, pretty much.
Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
Also, I buried him in a British tea box, so I mean, it technically wasn't a lie.
That's a real fucked up sense of humor there, Nick.
I have a fucked up sense of
That's
humor.
very fey of you. I'm not lying,
Oh.
but I'm not telling the truth either. I was going to say a thing. Oh, I cannot
About
possibly unpack the entire length and breadth of Shakespeare's work, particularly considering that some of his works have been completely lost to history.
Some of them unfinished.
Some of them unfinished, yeah.
It's like that's what happened when people die.
When people die, whatever. Speaking of how writing works, writing is hugely affected by the perceptions, ideals, politics of the time, and I think a lot of people like to forget that.
Politics.
Are really influenced by the politics of the time, and I think a lot of people like to forget that with Shakespeare. His earliest plays were the history plays, one of which is my favorite out of all the Shakespeare plays. They have assisted in cementing a huge piece of English history in the public consciousness, but the thing is that most people now realize that a large part of those plays was just Elizabethan propaganda, because Elizabeth came from the line of Tudor, and a lot of those plays are about the formation of the Tudor family and their rise to power through the War of the Roses, which is kind of comparable to our Civil War. I had a thing, and I lost it. I was going there, and then it disappeared into the fog like Henry VI, who by the end of the play is running around mad.
Civil War.
Civil War. So the plays make it seem like the Tudors were right to take the throne.
I can tell you for certain we didn't care. No.
It's like you're worried about your own life, not other people's.
Yeah.
Fancy that.
Mind your own business. It's real simple.
Why are you so chill? Because I'm minding my business.
It's a good vibe.
It's like one of the best memes I've ever seen, because he's literally just flopped on the floor. Like, there's stuff underneath him. His head's only partway on a beanbag, and he's just like the chillest, just living his life.
It's how you do.
I yearn, I aim to be as chill as that fucking guy.
So step one, mind your business.
I'm trying. I'm having to unlearn lots of years of white suburban training where it is like your job to spy on your neighbors. No. Where if you don't know what Cindy and Tracy and Karen are up to, you're behind the fucking ball. you're slacking.
And sometimes you do know, and you know what you do with that information? Not a damn
You
thing.
tell everyone so they all know, because nobody actually wants to talk to Karen, Cindy, or whatever the fuck I named the other woman.
See, this is where we get the squirt bottles. Bad Lilli.
I'm not saying that's what I do. I'm saying
No,
that's what you're taught to do.
See? No. Quit spreading. That's how you do it. Just let that go. You're telling the story wrong. So you gotta let that go. You do not a damn thing with that information, and you move on. Manners are not culturally specific. It's just manners. Just be a good, decent human.
Which makes me think of the fact that a lot of people accuse Shakespeare of being unfeminist.
You also have to remember the time.
Yeah, there weren't feminists back then, or if they were, there wasn't a name for them. I mean, he had a queen for a ruler, so he probably had more egalitarian views of women than a lot of people. I think everyone's just grumpy about, like, Taming of the Shrew and the fact that there isn't as many great Shakespearean roles for women as there are for men.
Also, women couldn't perform in plays back then.
So if he was gonna get a girl, he had to get a young boy, and I don't know if people understand biology, but they don't stay young and feminine looking for very long.
No.
It's kind of like this. They have this whole puberty thing going on.
It's like humans continue to grow no matter how much we've aimed for immortality.
What?
Yeah. It's okay. Someone will fix the programming soon. Matrix will just add that feature in. Add that mod.
They'll finally get the DLC downloaded.
Yeah.
14 million years later. Aha! I've got it! It's now on the computer, so I can download the download, and then I'll be able to play it.
Yeah.
I don't even play PC. That's not true. I play one PC game where I get to play God.
You and your Sims is a very terrifying thing to experience.
Most people that play The Sims design the house, they make the families, and they murder people. Those are the three things that people do in The Sims.
I got to hear about how you murdered a family, and then you explained to me how it was on The Sims. I didn't hear the lead up, and then you were just talking about leaving them in the pool, and just...
That's the easiest way to do it. If you want to set the house on fire, it'll bring the property value down.
See?
You put them in the pool, and they fixed it now in the current...
And you're so upset about it. I just saw that.
They fixed it now. Back in the previous versions, if they didn't have stairs, they couldn't get out.
And then drowned.
And then drown. And then you get to have a baby and bring another person into the family. Because you can only have 8 people at a time, so you gotta get rid of Granny.
That's sadistically...
And now I know when my grandma got rid of her pool. I'm just kidding, she moved.
Some sadistic
And now you know
God complex you got going on there.
And-
Alright, The Sims, got it.
The Sims, God of War. What's Stab, Stab, Die, Die?
Dark Souls.
Dark Souls. That's...
And it's stab, cry. Yeah.
I didn't believe you that was the unofficial name until you said that around someone. And they're like, oh, Dark Souls. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, stab, cry.
Stab, stab, cry, cry. So stab, stab, cry, cry could really be described as also the catchphrase for a lot of Shakespeare's dramas.
He was just drama and humor
And drama.
and sadness. Humor and sadness. And then maybe we'll mix them together. Boom.
And there you have Henry IV Part 1, which is turned down for what, but also, like, internal angst and political strife. And did my dad steal the throne? Do I have the right to ascend to the throne? I'm not cut out for this.
Yeah.
If
Also, much ado about nothing. Just humor, so dark. Humor.
I sometimes forget that Beatrice and Benedict are not the lead characters of Much Ado About Nothing.
They're
The
not.
lead characters are actually Claudio and Hero.
Yeah.
But they're not. Those are not.
It's one of those plays where it's about the group of people. Mm-hmm. That is
Ensemble
the main,
cast.
Yeah, it's an ensemble cast.
For sure.
It's not main focus. It's about all the war and politics, and also this young couple who's going to live happily ever after, and then death.
Okay.
And then everything's happy, and
So I've been pissed at Claudio since my freshman year of high school. Because sure, trust Prince John once. But the second time he tries to fool Claudio by showing his lady stooping another dude. You would think at that moment you've gone, wait, I've been played by this guy before. Mm-hmm. He's got to be lying to me because I know the love of my life who I've met for 5 minutes. I know she wouldn't do me dirty like that. So this guy who I've gone to war with must be lying. You would think he would give the girl a benefit of a doubt, but no. She's a wanton harlot and I have to disgrace her at her wedding in front of her entire family. Rage.
once again, that instant love connection. I will love you
Forever.
It's been a whole 2 minutes.
That's called infatuation. It means you need to get laid.
Which I've met some people who it was a very quick developmental relationship. That's the exception that proves the rule.
I actually really like Beatrice and Benedict for just that reason, because it's honestly a more accurate depiction of romance. Like,
Yeah, I've known you for years. I fucking hate you. That's so good to see you, man. How you doing?
Where should I hop to next? We were talking
We were talking about Claudia.
You fall for it once, sure. Fall for it twice. You're a fucking idiot who doesn't deserve her.
Yeah.
What is it? Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Fool me thrice. I was obviously wrong. I'm so sorry. No. That's some apologist behavior. I will not stand for it.
Yeah. But Claudio, like, if he weren't played by Wilson from House, I would hate him. The fact that he's played by young, like, Dead Poet Society Wilson is the redeeming quality. I'm like, you're played by a little baby face. If you weren't him, I'd hate you so much. Also, that was the movie that taught me to love Denzel Washington. She's fond of Denzel Washington in the way that I'm fond of Tom Hiddleston.
Yes.
And a lot of people were at that time.
Which he played in some Shakespeare.
Tom Hiddleston or Denzel?
Obviously, Lilli, both of them.
Yeah.
We were just literally talking about Much Ado About Nothing, where he plays the prince.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, I was talking about Tom Hiddleston. He plays Henry
the Fourth. No. Henry the Fifth in Henry the Fourth. But in Henry the Fourth, he is not yet Henry the Fifth because his father, played by Jeremy Irons, is still alive. So he's Hal.
Yeah.
And what's one of the cool things too is that Shakespeare uses names in that specific instance to differentiate in character development, because when he's Hal, he is this young, rambunctious, I'm gonna go party with the shady end of town. Yeah, I'm gonna get drunk and I'm gonna stay out late and I'm gonna dismiss my handlers. And then when he's Henry, I am Henry and I will go to war and I am a religious person and I will be just whatever.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I say whatever, because that's like Henry the Fourth Part 1 is my favorite play.
Yes.
Not just because of Tom Hiddleston, but because Henry the Fourth Part 1. If you want to get into history plays, that would be the one I advise, because it has a lot of time spent on the cheap side of town, so the language is more prose than verse. Mm-hmm. So you have a lot of that really easier Shakespearean language to get a hold of. Also, there's like 20 minutes that is just like Shakespeare's version of Wilder Valderrama's Yo Mama.
Yeah.
Is literally just like, you starveling, you dried meat's tongue in bull's pizzle, you... Yeah. It just goes on and on and on. Just 20 minutes of like thrown insults. What's amazing is in the movie version that I love, it's Tom Hiddleston and Simon Russell Beale, who I didn't think I could find a single living person who had a better handle on Shakespeare than Kenneth fucking Branagh. But Simon Russell Beale makes Kenneth look like a freshman in an English class.
Yes.
He just has such a natural handle on Shakespeare. And that's the thing, is that if people are doing Shakespeare in a holier than thou, oh Titus come hither sort of way, then they're not really getting the handle on Shakespeare, because Shakespeare is supposed to be cheap entertainment for the masses. Like, I'm sorry, if it's the kind of play where you have to worry about people throwing tomatoes at you,
yeah, you're not doing your job.
That, and it's not a lofty art. Yeah, I was gonna go somewhere with this.
That's good.
I completely lost it.
I mean, we're throwing insults.
It's Henry the Fourth Part 1.
Henry the Fourth Part 1. History. Henry the Fourth
is my favorite play. One, because the first time I ever saw it was with Thomas William Hiddleston.
Okay.
And anyone who knows me knows how much I am fond of that little curly-haired Brit, and I hate it.
No, you don't.
I don't hate it, but
No, you don't. Don't lie.
I hate being a grown woman who's infatuated with a British movie actor.
It is a bit stereotypical.
It is a bit stereotypical, but he's so fucking talented.
Yes. Yes, he is.
He's also been in 3 Shakespeare plays that I own and can watch anytime that I want. So that's a real bonus to me, that he doesn't just do like stage Shakespeare. Although he recently did a version of Hamlet with Kenneth Branagh directing.
Yes.
That he only did on stage. Mm-hmm. And I'm super bummed that it's not on a like DVD format that I can watch every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I also don't get why the Royal Shakespeare Company doesn't... I don't get why Broadway plays and like Royal Theatre Companies don't record and sell their plays.
They still see it as a privilege, not a right. Sorry.
Fuck that.
Yeah.
Like, Broadway are like, oh, we don't want people pirating our shows. Then record a copy yourself and sell it to us, because people will pay for that shit.
Yeah.
So, Henry IV Part 1 is my favorite play, because the opening monologue, performed by Hal, is so relatable, it's a little mind-bending, because you think this is a monologue written by a man from Elizabethan England, who's writing about what would be comparable in time span to our First World War, First or Second War, is about that far away from where he was writing. Like, there shouldn't be anything relatable about this, but
People are the same no matter where you go, though.
people are basically the same. And the monologue's really interesting because I'm trying to talk about the monologue without doing the monologue because I don't want to do that to you.
Do it.
You've got that devil's advocate look on your face right now. I don't like it.
Most of them.
You shady bastard.
Yeah, it happens.
So, at the middle of the monologue, he says, "And when this loose behavior I throw off and pay the debt I never promised, said, by how much better in my word I am, by so much will I falsify men's hopes." That lays out his entire character progression for the next 3 plays. Mm-hmm. All through Henry IV Part 1, all through Henry V up until he dies of dysentery. Which is actually what happened. It's really sad that one of England's greatest kings died on the toity. Which I feel like is really relatable considering that's how Elvis died, although Elvis was not one of our greatest kings because he stole all of his music from black women. But that's beside the point. No, that's not the point. That's not beside the point. That is the point.
Dysentery. Dysentery was the point. But yes, you're not wrong. That's why, taking care of yourself is important, and don't drink gross water.
I mean, don't drink gross water, and maybe don't go pillaging and warring in France.
Are you saying the French have dirty water?
No, I'm saying he got it when he was over there, messing with their lives. He was over there trying to lay claim to France based on his ancestral lineage. Oh, well, Edward, the Black Prince of Wales, conquered France, so I now have right to... Fuck off, man. England is enough. Just leave it alone.
So maybe don't come over and just take people's things?
I mean...
That's don't take things from people. Just don't take things from people. That is the whole gist of this, is that bad things wouldn't happen if you don't take things that aren't yours.
You could also go back a bit and go to the logic of don't tickle a sleeping dragon, because Henry V, Tom Hiddleston, did not have any interest in going to war at all, let alone war with France, until the Dauphin, until the Prince of France, sent him a cask of tennis balls, saying, the ball's in your court, game on sort of thing. He was like, oh, I'm going to taunt you because I am the Prince of France and you can't do anything to me, and I'm not going to try to do a French accent because I don't want to offend anybody.
I think you're more worried about offending yourself, but okay.
Yeah, I am, because I took French class and I'll know that the accent sounds bad. Also, just, it's easy to hear. Maybe it's not. My French teacher in high school was like Madame Trelawney, but with short hair and a poodle. Do you remember her?
No.
Do you remember in the language hallway, that room at the very, very end of the hallway?
Nope.
Oh, well.
I was doing other stuff.
You were living your life and working and trying to stay alive. Anyways, I told my mom that my French teacher was basically Madame Trelawney, but French, and she didn't believe me, and then we went for a parent-teacher conference.
Oh, yeah, those were things. Oh, no, my feelings are hurt. All 2 of them.
Fuck you, Nick.
All 2 of my feelings.
I feel like everyone else has 2 brain cells, and you have 2 emotions, and they're just sitting there like, eh.
Yeah.
Eh.
It's called sociopathy.
I'm
kidding, by the way.
Part of it is also the fact that you just have this amazing ability where you don't give a shit about things that don't affect you.
Well, kind of, but yeah, you could narrow it down to that baseline.
I mean, that's not all of your, but you got it.
I can see some sort of Rolodex going on in your head. I'm not sure exactly what it's saying to you, but it's saying something.
It's saying something. So Henry IV Part 1, along with being my favorite play, containing some amazing monologues, it also has this character, this person, who is not real, but by virtue of how well he was written and the titans of acting that have played him over history, he's kind of taken on a life of his own. He was such a popular character that after this play came out, Shakespeare had to write a hasty sequel, because everyone's like, fuck the kings and queens who are an actual part of our history. No, we want to know about this guy, Falstaff, the single-named, plain-dealing villain, which I think is actually a line from Much Ado About Nothing. Shakespeare created Falstaff as kind of a everyman character that the people in the cheap seats could relate to, while he was talking about these mythic kings from England's great history. He's like, okay, I need some sort of ball buster to mix in with all these great men. I need a great man from Eastcheap. I need a great man from the slums of town. I need a man who's not great by virtue of his deeds, but by virtue of his charisma. I need a guy who, even though he is an absolute garbage human, you just can't help but love.
You're just a terrible, awful person, and I hope everything happens for you.
Yeah. He's an asshole, but he's our asshole. Falstaff is the epitome epitome of that guy. And he is the person that I think Hal, Henry V, has the most complex relation with. You could argue, doesn't he have a more complex relationship with his father? I'm like,
Well, it's the prince and this criminal. You're supposed to be the epitome of the royal house. You are supposed to uphold your family's honor. You are the example to look up to.
And you slumming it
hey,
at 3 a.m.
yeah.
with this drunk and this professional pickpocket. There's a whole scene where he's talking to Hal at the beginning. He's like, there's no sin for a man to labor in his vacation. Talking about, like, you can't get me in trouble for picking a pocket when you're king. Like, I'm just doing my job. Falstaff could very much be compared, or contrary-wise, because Falstaff came first, could very much be compared to, I don't know his first name, but Doolittle. Alfred P. Doolittle, Eliza's father in My Fair Lady.
Ah.
He's just this drunken, loud, obnoxious, strangely amoral character who, in his people watching as a drunk with no job,
Which is what, yeah, can confirm.
Yeah, gets to see a lot of human interaction, and even though he's kind of amoral himself, he understands a lot about psychology, and unfortunately, he just uses it to manipulate people. Mm-hmm. But I think one of the greatest questions that you could ask about that play is whether Falstaff's feelings for Hal are genuine. There's a lot of debate amongst Shakespearean scholars and fans, and even the characters themselves, the characters around Falstaff and Hal, and even Hal himself, about whether or not this relationship is genuine. Like,
If he wasn't the prince, would this be a friendship?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hit the nail on the head. And I used to think that, yeah, Falstaff does, in his own way, love Henry, and he doesn't know how to show it, and he has his own internal problems, and blah, 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 blah. But I think an easier, more cut, more streamlined way of looking at it is Falstaff loved Hal, but was physically incapable of loving Henry.
Yes.
Like, he loved the boy, couldn't handle the man. And that's really, really plainly seen in, oh God, I don't remember if it's the end of Henry IV Part 1 or Henry IV. It has to be the end of Henry IV Part 2, because at the end of Henry IV Part 1, Hal has a battle with Harry Percy. Hal kills Henry. Henry and Hal are the great rivals, two stars, keep not their motion in one sphere, those kind of characters. Yep. And Hal kills Henry. Mm-hmm. Falstaff watches it happen. Hal sees Falstaff at some point in the battle napping, thinks he's dead. Falstaff then shows up after the battle, having claimed to have killed Henry himself. Mm-hmm. And then Hal's like, bitch, I thought you were dead. I grieved over your body, and now not only are you alive, but you're trying to take credit for my kill. The rage, the confusion. Falstaff, this horseback breaker, as Hal calls him, gets knighted because he kills the threat to the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has to.
He lies.
He lies. He does what he does. He does what he does best.
He does him.
And then he gets money and miraculously gets gout. Big shock there. But at the end of Henry IV Part 2, Henry IV has died, which means naturally Hal has to become Henry V. And there's this marvelous moment that Hiddleston plays out perfectly where Henry IV is sick and dying. And Hal is at his bed, keeping an eye on him, falls asleep, wakes up, thinks that his father has died, takes the crown, walks to the throne. And the movie version is called The Hollow Crown, which I think is a really great title, not only as a piece of dialogue from the plays, but he's sitting there at the throne with this crown, this heavy piece of metal that dubs him the ruler of all the land. And I think the thing that makes it hollow is, one of the things that makes it hollow is that he rises to power through the death of his father. I don't think that's something we give enough.
Yeah, also, he became someone who wasn't. He wasn't a real person. He was this Henry V character. He was who he was supposed to be, not who he was.
But there's this beautiful moment that Hiddleston plays out where he's holding the crown and he's thinking about, okay, I am now the king. I have this whole country on my shoulders and my father's dead, and he just breaks down in tears. Finds out very shortly after that his father is not in fact dead. But when his father does die, he has to become king, and there's this beautiful, marvelous heartbreaking moment in during the coronation, where Hal is ascending to the role of king, and Falstaff literally interrupts the coronation to say, like, hey, it's me, it's your old buddy, it's your old pal, how about we go, like, slum it in Eastcheap, let's drink some sack and sugar, and let's just have, like, ourselves a good old time. And Hal literally acts like he doesn't know him, because this person he must become doesn't know him. I don't know who the fuck you are. What are you doing? Get out of my way. And it doesn't even require guards. You just watch as every piece of armor that Falstaff has constructed over his years, this bravado, literally everything rolls off his back. There is this one scene, I'm going to see if I can remember the dialogue. Actually, I don't have to remember the dialogue. The fancy schmancy book is
The
right
book
here.
has all of the answers for only $24.99. You too can have this copy of Lilli's Shakespeare, all the works. It's just 4 easy payments of $24.99. Did I say 4? I mean 6. But don't worry, the shipping and handling is more than you can afford. So please, dial in now.
All right, Henry IV. Enter Sir John Falstaff.
What was the part you were thinking of? Because right now we have 4 offers going for this book, Lilli.
I know.
Come on. Researching. You guys said you wanted music.
There's a guy in here, his name is Sir Walter Blunt, and I feel like there's a joke to be made there.
It probably is a joke. Shakespeare was not a classy man.
Shakespeare was not a classy man. No. We're not for laughing. I should pity him. Okay, I'm on the right track. Oh, God, I love this scene. Poor guy. This is the part that I'm reading now. Hal is drunk on the cheap seats with a friend. And
I mean,
like you do. And he's
Hal gets drunk. That is the first part of the play.
That is the first part.
Hal gets drunk.
Hal gets drunk. Yeah.
Part 1, and then Hal gets sober. Part 2.
And then Hal becomes king and goes to war.
Well, that's part 2.
No, that's 5th. That's Henry V. But this part here.
He drunk.
So basically, imagine the future king. Imagine Prince William of England sitting in the scummiest bar you could possibly imagine on the cheap side of town. And he goes, okay, so the waiter is not very bright, and all he ever talks about is his work. And he's not really smart, so we're going to fuck with him. So you sit in that room and you call his name, and he's not going to want to tell me no or leave me alone because I'm the prince. You can't just walk away from the prince. But he has to do his job. So I'm going to keep asking him inane questions, and then you keep calling his name, and we're just going to fuck with him like a ping pong ball.
Yep. I'm just gonna mess with this guy because I'm the prince.
Come hither, Francis, my lord. How long hast thou served, Francis? Forsooth, 5 years, and as much to say, Francis, not anon, sir. And it's just back and back and back and back and back.
Mm-hmm.
5 years.
Just being that dick.
Yeah, 5 years, the long lease for the clinking of pewter, Francis. Now, Francis.
Just being that dick. Just,
yeah.
Some people, man, were not beat up enough as children, and it shows.
Nay, but hark you, Francis, for the sugar thou gavest me, 'twas pennyworth, was it not? Oh, I would too, sir. I will give thee for it 1,000 pound. Just being that fucking guy.
Yeah, being an asshole because he's drunk and he can.
I think I found it. Falstaff is so thick-skinned that even when called on the carpet by the king, he still finds a way out of it. So, rewind.
Like you do.
Away from the coronation, back to Henry IV, Part 1. They're all chilling at this bar in Eastcheap. And the prince, knowing that he can fuck with Falstaff royally, goes, why don't we take a purse tomorrow, Jack? And Falstaff goes, when the fuck ever. Like, is there work to be had?
Yeah.
And someone says that the king's exchequer is going to be traveling, which means all the money is going to be on the fucking road. Mm-hmm. Like, this is your chance. They go to, Falstaff and 2 of his drunken friends go to rob the king's exchequer. Mm-hmm. They do it amazingly. I don't know how, but they've got the money, and then the prince and his friend, who reminds me a lot of you, Poins, steal it back from them.
Yep.
With almost no work. Basically, they just pop out and go, hey, we're here, and they're like, ah! And they run away. And there's literally
a terrible criminal.
He's a terrible criminal, but there's a point where he falls and injures himself while he's trying to run away, and the prince goes, "We're not for pitying. I should laugh." But so the prince knows that anything Falstaff says about the night is going to be a lie. That was the whole point. Is what if we set this guy up to tell a story just to tear it down, because we know he builds stories higher than anybody.
Yeah.
They've stolen the money. They're now in the bar that next evening waiting for Falstaff to show up, which is when he plays the trick on Francis. And on Francis, no Francis, but tomorrow Francis, or Francis on Thursday, indeed Francis when thou wilt, but Francis. So after that, Falstaff shows up.
Yes.
He and his friends are covered in holes in their clothes, their swords are hacked, and they're like, oh, the trials, the travails, the things we've been through, you would not believe. Trying to act like they've been through this.
Couldn't tell a truth to save his life.
Could not tell a truth to save his life. He got his friends in on this. Falstaff is sitting there telling the whole bar about this great adventure that he's gone on to get this money. I don't know if I fought with all, but if I fought with not 50 of them? 50, wow. And the prince is just like, oh gosh, just playing along for the whole thing. Just letting him stack the Jenga bricks.
A little bit more rope.
A little bit.
A little bit more.
A little bit.
Ooh, looks like, yep. Sounds, how about right now? Destroy that story.
This is the prince. Why, how couldst thou know these men in Kendall Green when it was so dark? Thou couldst not see thy hand. And then Poins is like, come, your reason, Jack, your reason. This would be you. Like, no, I'm a bad cop. You super hard. You're not getting out of this.
No, you do. When people do that, you go, so what happened? What? Well, it just happened. No, tell me exactly what happened.
And then Falstaff.
Why'd you say that?
Give me them sweet deets.
Yeah.
And then Falstaff, in the format of compulsive liars the world over, says, what upon compulsion? Zoons, put me all the racks in the world, and I'll tell you upon compulsion.
Which is basically the equivalent of, well, you're stupid,
So then the prince, after letting this go on for about 20-25 minutes, says, I will be no longer guilty of this sin, this sanguine coward, this bed presser, this horseback breaker, this huge hill of flesh. And then John Falstaff.
Damn.
Right? Then Falstaff comes in with, you starveling, you dried neat's tongue and bull's pizzle, you stockfish. Just goes on and on.
Just insulting each other, and then...
And mind you, Falstaff's insulting the heir apparent. So picture some fucking drunk at your local scummy pub talking shit to Prince William.
See, you can't talk shit unless it's true.
So Falstaff insults him back, because that's what Falstaff do.
Back and forth. Repartee, if you will.
The prince is like, okay, let me,
You a fucking liar!
You a fucking liar! So this guy has just spent the last 20 minutes going, I faced so many people, and my life was at such peril, and I
almost died!
I almost died, and I'm such a hero! And then the prince is like, see, but I know for a fact you were a liar, because I was fucking there. I'm the one that you fought. I'm the one that took your money. What you got now? What cards do you have? What could you possibly throw at me?
Yeah.
And then the friend points you in this situation. Is like, come, let's hear, Jack. What trick hast thou now? Like, okay, yeah, no, let's see what you got.
So what actually happened? So after we beat you shamelessly, then you got in the fight? Yeah.
Falstaff, to his eternal fucking credit, goes, by the Lord, I knew ye as well as he that made you.
Yeah, no. So I had to be a coward for you, which... Dude, come on, man.
He's just been shown up in front of all of his friends like, what you gonna do now? Like, I've proven you a liar. And he's like, I wasn't lying. What was I gonna do? Kill the future king of England? Like, I can do that. I was doing you a good citizen.
I was being a good friend, a good citizen. I had to be a coward. I had to. What other choice did I have? So I had to lie. I had to lie. What else was I supposed to do?
What was I supposed to do? Was I supposed to kill you and then be hung?
Yeah, and tell them that you were a thief? You want me to tell people you want me to tell people?
Protecting your good name.
Yeah. Bullshit.
Bullshit, right? Also, all of the Hollow Crown plays are for free on PBS.
Oh.
High def. Check that shit out.
Good to know.
I know you have, because you never sleep. I'm talking about other people. So
I'm not the only person in the world. I've been lied to my entire life.
They've spent the last half hour just dueling with words, and the prince, and Tom Hiddleston acts this out marvelously, just sits there and waits for...
Which is exactly how you do it.
You don't hang them. You let them hang themselves.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's just no fun.
It is. It's so great.
I mean, no, it's about the honesty, not the fun. Yeah. No.
Very shortly after this, Mary, my lord, there's a nobleman of courted door would speak with you. He says it comes from your father. And then... drunken Prince Henry at 3 o'clock in the fucking morning. Give him as much as will make him a royal man and send him back to my mother.
Pay the man.
How did I forget about this part? Oh my god.
You're a fool.
I am a fool.
How dare you?
I can count. Okay, so there's
Be shamed.
I am shamed.
Shame.
There's a scene where Hal, played by Tom Hiddleston,
Are you sure?
Yes. impersonates his father. And I can count the number of times I fangirled that hard on one hand, because in the movie version, it's Tom Hiddleston portraying Jeremy Irons. A royalman comes to the door and says, one of your family members has been kidnapped by a warring faction. And instead of going home and facing his dad like he's supposed to, Falstaff goes, you know, you're going to be in a lot of trouble tomorrow, so why don't we have a play and you practice your answer? And the prince says, do thou stand for me and judge me upon the particulars of my life. I'm not going to read this whole thing, even though it's great.
They can watch The Hollow Crown, Lily.
They can.
I believe in them. Kind of. Kevin's just kind of an
Fuck
asshole.
you, Kevin. So there's a bit where Falstaff is...
Yeah, you. Anyway.
There's a bit where Falstaff is describing himself. He's playing Henry IV. And he's talking about, Harry, I not only marvel where thou spendest thy time, but also how thou art accompanied. You're hanging out on the cheap side of town with these undesirables. And at the very end, he goes, yet there is a virtuous man who I've often noted in thy company, but I know not his name. And the prince goes, oh, what manner of man like a man, your majesty? And Falstaff, in front of God and everybody, goes, a goodly, portly man. Just talking about himself.
I'm the greatest human.
I'm so great.
So cool. I'm up there.
Oh, and now I remember me. His name is Falstaff! The whole room shouts. Just laying it on thick. Henry, pretending to be his father, talking to Falstaff, who's pretending to be him.
So we got the prince playing his father. We got Falstaff playing the prince.
Yep, and we've got the whole drunken audience just watching this shit play out. So, why dost thou converse with that trunk of humours? Wherein is he good, but to taste sack and drink it? Wherein neat and cleanly, but to carve a capon and eat it? Wherein cunning, but in craft? Wherein crafty, but in villainy? Wherein villainous, but in all things? Wherein worthy, but in nothing? And in that moment when you're like, oh my god, how on God's green earth is Falstaff going to shake this off? What the fuck is he going to do? How is he possibly going to top this? I wish your grace would take me with you. Who means your grace?
Yeah.
A solid paragraph of insults laid upon him, and he's like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm awesome. Dust the rubble off his shoulder, like,
yeah. Compulsive liars, man. Go for it.
And this is when it gets kind of sad. There's a brief little moment in there where he's like, no, don't get rid of me. I need someone to love me. And you just see this,
just the broken soul,
the weakness and the fragility behind all that bravado. On a separate note, grocery lists can be rather incriminating, don't you believe? Like,
yes, they can. Sometimes you just gotta buy some trash bags, some ammonia, some bleach, some rope. Just so you can keep those people at the outlet store just guessing. And it makes people leave you alone, Lily.
So
and that's why you do it.
People come to the door looking for Falstaff.
Also, I need trash bags.
Falstaff hides and falls asleep because he's drunk.
That checks out.
Like any good friend, they pick his pocket. They go through his pocket.
That's a little less what you do, but yeah. We just talked about the pocket thing.
Just check it out for a second.
Two dyslexics read.
Shakespeare. So he buys 2 gallons of alcohol and a little bit of sugar, which when they say sugar, they literally mean like brown sugar in like a little ball. Mm-hmm. And just a little bit of bread. I thought about going to the store and buying all of these items and then just setting them on the table and being like, you know, Nick, if I had a receipt for these ingredients in my pocket, what the fuck would you think?
Sack, sugar, bread. So you have an alcohol base, you have a food source for your alcohol, and you have sugar.
You'd be questioning my life choices at that point.
Yeah. It happens when you're an alcoholic.
It happens, but I think it's interesting.
Just enough to stay alive.
It's such a little thing, like the shopping list, the receipts in his pocket, but it tells you so much about his character.
Which is you're supposed to show, not tell, in writing, which Shakespeare does a lot.
Shakespeare does a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
It's more about what's not said, which it's also a play, so you're supposed to have the facial expressions to go along with these lines, which most people don't understand because they read it. That's what they're told. You have to read Shakespeare to understand it.
You shouldn't read Shakespeare.
No. That's why a lot of kids that grew up around the festivals that I went to as kids understand Shakespeare because
we got to see it. Yeah. God damn it, Kevin. That's for the outdoor cats. You cannot just stick your whole head in the water bowl. We have cups.
It's not stopping him. I think that guy bet him $5. Oh, come on, man.
Matt.
You know Kevin is a fool.
feel like one of the reasons I want to talk so much about Henry IV is I feel like people think Shakespeare is boring enough, and a Shakespeare history play has got to be the second worst thing next to a root canal without anesthesia. You just looked at me very, very interestingly.
Everybody thinks the root canal is the worst thing.
It's really not.
It's not.
It seems like just a horrible thing, like it couldn't possibly get more boring than Shakespeare's history plays. But Shakespeare understood that history was not exactly an easy subject to engage with even then. So he created characters like Falstaff that make it so enjoyable, because you don't just have these mythic characters, these kings and queens, these lords, these epic battles. You have these regular, every people, normal people. People that were normal back then.
Who were doing people things.
People who are doing people things, just normal,
never had
everyday
to deal
life.
with royalty and
yeah, it makes these characters and these plays so much easier to digest when you have characters like Falstaff and Poins, who, even though he's a noble, is always kind of like the go-between Henry and the King and Henry and Falstaff.
He's the courtier.
He is very much the courtier. He's also the best friend who's just like, hey, I'm gonna make sure you don't get into too much trouble without me. A lot like you.
That's how you do it.
So I'm not gonna stop you from drinking. I'm just gonna stop you from drinking and driving. Have fun. Don't be stupid.
Yeah, that's what any good friend would do. You're your own person.
What?
You're gonna do whatever you're gonna do because, you know, you have free will.
What?
Congratulations.
I don't know about that. That sounds hokey.
I know. It sounds like a lie, but I mean, there's several books dedicated to the subject. But
Are we throwing down that gauntlet today, Nick?
No.
Do we have time to unpack all of that?
speaking of gauntlets,
Speaking of gauntlets, that's how this whole mess with the history plays starts in Richard II. There's a line where the person accused of treason says, "The greatest joy that mortal times can afford is spotless reputation."
yeah, especially if you want to be a criminal, best way to do it.
It's not working out too well for Falstaff. I think he has the exact opposite of a spotless reputation.
Which also, he owns that reputation. Damn it, Kevin! Gauntlets, treason,
Gauntlets, treason,
murder,
Richard
mutiny,
II.
and plot.
There's actually a really great monologue in Richard II they use in the opening of The Hollow Crown.
I'm gonna go get table 4 some coffee while you look that up.
Okay. There is a monologue in Richard II, which is kind of in the middle of the play, when things are already starting to fall apart and he's clearly losing his mind or has lost his mind and is just starting to unravel. They use it in the beginning of the movie. The monologue itself is much longer than what they use in the film. Big shock there.
I mean, you have to fit it into a concise time frame
I know, it's
to
weird.
air on public television.
It's weird.
It's crowdfunded.
Apparently. That's what they're telling me. They say, let's talk of graves, of worms, of epitaphs. Let's sit upon the ground and tell sad stories of the death of kings. That piece right there also, much like Henry, just kind of lays out the whole history plays.
Which is the history plays.
Which is the history plays. And
Yeah.
I feel like that's Shakespeare speaking directly to the audience. Because you can just imagine, like, the poor paupers down on the floor listening to these great monologues. And then someone's like, hey, I'm gonna draw right on you. There's actually a beautiful moment at the beginning of Henry V where Chorus actually becomes like a real person. When tasked with something like staging the Battle of Agincourt in a theater. And Shakespeare doesn't even worry about that. He literally asks the audience to cram the whole sphere of the world into this wooden O. To actively use your imagination to envision the horses and the mud and the rain and the mountains and the fields of Agincourt and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's you paint the picture with the words, and then you have the stage where you have the main focus of these two characters locked in this epic battle, and you don't realize that it's two guys on stage playing with wooden sticks.
With wooden sticks, yeah.
Because it draws you in.
Well, and it's so interesting because he doesn't just do it and then expect the audience to play along. He actively says, hey guys, so, kind of on a shoestring budget here. Can you just pretend that we have coconuts and just pretend they're horses? I'm fairly certain that's where Monty Python got the idea.
Actually, it's because they used all their money on other things. That's why the film kind of just ends, because they were out of money. And that's why the opening for The Holy Grail is just a bunch of random-ass credits, because the credits are the most expensive part, and they had no money.
Really?
Yeah, they just did not have the budget.
Credits are the most expensive part?
You have to pay graphic designers back then, because we didn't have the same technology we had then as we have now, where I could create credits. Yeah, you had to have, computers weren't all too accessible.
All newfangled.
You had to pay someone to run those, and that cost lots and lots of cash, so.
Well.
They couldn't pay for the horses, let alone the animal handlers and the fees and the person that comes and makes sure that you're treating the horses correctly.
Lodging, the ASPCA representative.
Coconuts. And hamsters.
Hamsters.
I'm just making Monty Python references.
I know. Where does the hamster come in?
Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled elderberries.
Oh, I thought you meant like
Your
a
mom
hamster.
was a hoe and your dad was a drunk.
I thought you meant like an actual hamster in the movie. Like they couldn't afford a rabbit, so they used a hamster.
No, that's all they could afford. With a rabbit. Believe it or not. I know rabbits are inherently evil, but that one was fake. I know. Crazy, but...
What?
Yeah, it was too dangerous to bring an actual bunny on set. As we know, they're bloodthirsty monsters of the abyss.
Nick, you can't tell me these
However,
things.
No, they weren't all that brave. It wasn't a real bunny. Sorry.
And I held them in such high esteem.
Yeah. You thought they were that D&D party that made it. They weren't. They are what every D&D party becomes.
They are.
But back to Monty Python. And from Monty Python, back to Henry V.
That's a long way.
It is. It was a journey.
That's a lot. Wow. That's There's a great monologue in Henry V where he's at the gates of Harfleur and he's just laid siege to this town. And he's coming through the gates, the literal conquering hero or villain, depending on. It kind of starts out the conquering.
It all depends on your point of view.
And it's interesting that you mentioned that because he comes in the conquering hero, like, I've won the battle. And then he gives this horrifying speech. So he comes through after conquering this city and goes from being the, when shall we take a purse tomorrow, Jack? You know, what trick hast thou now? Anon, Francis, no, Francis, tomorrow, Francis, or indeed Francis on Thursday. He goes from being that drunken, like, playboy.
The drunken rich kid, yes.
Yeah, billionaire, genius billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, that guy.
But lacking philanthropy.
But he talks about some...
Just a horrifying, I am the conquering hero, all shall bow before me.
Yes, and resoundingly no. I might end up reading this whole thing, so we'll see.
Oh no.
So he's just conquered this town and he comes in all high and mighty on his horse. How yet resolves the governor of the town? Like, are you done? Are you fucking done yet? Am I good? I can keep kicking your ass. Do you need me to keep kicking your ass? I can. I really don't want to, but
yeah. Have you tapped out yet?
Uncle?
Are you gonna tap out?
If I begin the battery once again, I will not leave the half-achieved Harfleur until in her ashes she lie buried. The gates of mercy shall be all shut up. He goes all the way.
He went
all the way.
From 1 to 1,000. Yeah. Basically, are you guys gonna surrender, or am I gonna unleash my angry hordes upon you and let them do whatever the hell they want?
You hear that, and to see it played by one actor, you get to see this guy who went from being the type to prank people by jumping out of the forest and startling them and would hang out with poor people in the cheap seats just for the company to I'm gonna stick your infants on pikes and like curb stomp your fucking grandpa, and I'm gonna do all manner of things to your daughters, and I'm just gonna light this place on fire. Just don't fuck with me.
I'm gonna need y'all to listen or it's gonna go down.
I'm gonna need y'all to listen.
Yeah. Went from being Hal to being Henry V.
Yeah.
The Great and Terrible.
Really taking after his ancestor, the Black Prince of Wales. And I think that's a crazy moment in the play because you go from the boy to the man and then from the man to the soldier and the king. And you kind of wonder, how do you come back from that? Like, how do you think Hal feels about himself at that point? God, he gets so many great moments in Henry V. There's a moment that's rather subversive where Hal, as Henry V, goes in disguise around his camps the day before the Battle of Agincourt. And he gets to hear the common folk, not the noblemen on horseback, but the guys trudging around in the mud who only signed up for adventure and money. He gets to hear the opposing opinion. Oh, I think this is a bunch of bullshit, and why should we have to die on foreign soil because this, king doesn't know how to settle his own affairs, blah, 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 blah. If you imagine being a commoner in the cheap seats back in the Elizabethan era where you were just now figuring out that royalty was not like divinely ordained. What do you mean nobles are just like us? What do you mean this commoner had the gall to speak to a prince like that? And it's really funny because they start fighting. They start like dueling with their words. I don't remember if it's Henry that throws down his gauge first or the poor guy. I think it's the poor guy. It's the commoner that throws the grunt that throws down his gauge. So the prince throws his down, takes the man's gauge. After the Battle of Agincourt has gone, and you can look it up in the history books, Agincourt is a mind-bending battle. So he's just won a historic battle, lost almost no one when he thought he and everyone in his group were going to die. He's relieved beyond his senses. And then that guy finds his way back to him and is like, hey, you, Hey, yeah, I got some fucking words with you. Oh, no. I'm mixing my plays up. I can't believe that just happened.
It's okay.
He is talking to the prince as the prince because the prince calls for him. Cool. Now I'm in Henry V. I don't know where the fuck I just went.
Okay. So
The prince calls for the man. The man is like, oh yeah, it was a good right battle and we survived and I'm very, very honored to see your highness and blah, 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 doing his right.
you are the prince, yeah.
You're the prince, you're the king now.
You're the king. Yeah.
This is the bowing and the scraping. The prince makes a comment about his glove that's in the man's like belt. Oh, what's that about? If I ever see this man again, I said I'd give him a what for? And the prince, because he can, takes out the man's glove and is like, it was
me.
Is this the glove you were looking for? And of course, immediately the guy's like, oh fuck.
I can't fight the prince. I can't fight the king.
I'm in a lot of trouble. So then the prince, probably, one, because he just didn't want to fight anymore, and two, probably because he was so happy that he didn't die, fills the guy's gauntlet up with gold and sends him on his way.
Well, good on him.
Right?
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
You put someone in a situation like that and you just don't be a dick.
There's also a really touching moment at the very end of the play where he meets his wife, who's French, and she doesn't speak a word of English and he doesn't speak a word of French, and it's all very sweet. I've always liked that scene because I feel like because he just conquered her country, he could treat her like absolute garbage, but you just saw this man who was talking about spitting infants on pikes and bashing people's heads in.
Yeah,
and he just killed a bunch of people.
Acts and murder and
he just killed a bunch of people on the battlefield. Like, he's clearly capable of doing these horrible things. And there's oh god, I almost forgot about that. There's a part that they leave out of the movies for good reason. The opposing force kills all of the boys that the English keep with them for, like, I don't know, carrying equipment and running messages.
Yeah, the squires and the pages and all that.
Kills all of them and leaves their bodies to be found by the English.
Ooh.
Oh, yes, indeed. They leave that out of the movies. It's fucked up.
Also, that amount of prosthetics or murder are both unacceptable. One financially, one morally. Just out of budget.
Fuck. But he has the right to treat her like garbage. He doesn't have the right. He has the ability to treat her like garbage.
He could get away with it.
Like, and you can see that he's capable of doing these really awful things. But then when this pretty girl comes up and it's just like, hi, I guess I'm your wife now. He's like, I only speak the language, but you're really pretty. And I know that kissing's not really something like French girls do before they're married, but I think you're awful cute. And can you have a kiss, please? That'd be really nice. I'm just so shy.
After he just murdered a fuck ton of people, as it were.
Yeah, he was just, oh gosh. He's a pretty girl. What do I don't know.
Shakespeare is a very interesting man to have written a play as such.
He's a weird dude.
But he's not wrong about how humans are. So.
He's not. That's the funny thing.
He's very in tune with the human condition.
And what I think is amazing too is that Shakespeare gets taken all over the world. So it's not just a Western thing. Like, people all over the planet relate to his stories and his narrative and the way he taps into the human condition. And I know people always talk about the dramas as a way that really, like, the stories that really get deep into the soul and talk about the nature of things. But I think,
you can't be happy all the time. That's not how life works.
That's true. But I feel like there's a lot of knowledge in the comedies that gets missed.
It does. It's something that gets glossed over. There's a lot of actual plot and behind the scenes work in the comedies that, unless you actually look into it, it's not very present because you weren't alive during the time that the play was written.
What?
I don't know about you, but
I mean, well, and like there's a lot lost in the pronunciation too, because a lot of time people can't hear the meter and rhythm because in modern English or even modern American English, the way we pronounce specifically vowels and consonants at the end of words is different than how they did it then. There's a really easy example that I'm borrowing from some masters of original pronunciation Shakespeare. It's in As You Like It, where the court jester basically says, from hour to hour we reap, and from hour to hour we rot, which doesn't sound like a whole lot. When you do it in the original pronunciation, the vowel changes very heavily, and it turns into from hour to hour we rape. It's a syphilis joke. It's a comment about the king's disease and venereal disease and our treatment of women. hidden in a single line that gets glossed over because we say our H's and our EA's differently.
Yeah. We don't speak proper English, as it were.
We don't. And
We also don't speak Middle English.
we don't speak Middle English as Chaucer, much to his dismay. We lose a lot of those little, almost cultural inside jokes because of the way we choose to pronounce things. I think a lot of people are worried about performing Shakespeare because they're like, oh God, how do I pronounce it? And really,
He made up his own words.
He made up his own words. Really, just say it however it comes out of your body. A good, easy suggestion would be just round the vowels a bit. Don't flatten them out the way Americans do. Flat. New Zealand is flat in their vowels.
Yes, they do.
I'll never get that out of my head.
Yeah, so Henry IV. Lilli's love for Henry IV and touching on Shakespeare.
Really?
Which is
just
mainly what Shakespeare did.
really just my love of Tom Hiddleston and the plays he's been in.
Yeah.
If somebody asked
what this
me
became,
what
and
my
that's great.
favorite movies were, I'd be in kind of an awkward position.
I know. All you'd have to do is just narrow it down to Tom Hiddleston.
You're not wrong.
I'm not. I've seen your movie collection. I've also seen where some of those movies sit and compared to the rest of them.
I always put the Hollow Crown on the top of the Shakespeare pile. It's not even kind of an accident.
I know.
It's because I like looking at their pretty faces. It also has Ben Whishaw and Jeremy Irons. And I refuse to drool over Ben Whishaw, one, because he's gay and I don't want to be that straight-passing woman who thinks that she can fawn over gay men. And
I mean, you can just enjoy someone for being attractive.
he's so
You're just
pretty.
like, hey,
Good job.
damn,
Look at
you got a face,
Look at
and it's a
that.
good one.
Look at that
Go
face.
you.
It's a good
And that's
face.
how to give a compliment without being creepy, but just super awkward.
He's good.
Damn, you got a face and it's a good one. You keep doing you.
that's how I feel about Chris Pine. I'm just like, you know what? You're all right. You got that face?
You have a face
and then
with
you
the
do that
symmetry.
And you do that stuff? That's
Good
all right.
job. Yeah, we'll save the Shakespeare stuff
Henry IV
for
part
a
one.
couple episodes, because
Clearly,
You-
I had a lot of feelings about Henry
you had
IV.
a lot of feelings about Henry IV, and I'm pretty sure we're going to be open for a few more nights at least.
Hopefully.
We'll see.
Shakespeare tends to bring him in. If not Shakespeare, then Falstaff. Falstaff
They're
is.
literally just here for the food. No one pays attention.
No one pays attention, but they would pay attention to John Falstaff because he would walk around at the tables and make them pay attention.
He would be the anti-Kevin.
He would be the anti-Kevin. Everyone would love him.
Yeah.
What I find interesting, too, is that's when asked what role Patrick Stewart would want to play above any, he said Falstaff. And I find that so interesting because I always think of Patrick Stewart as such a morally upright, character. Even,
I saw a picture of him with, a ridiculous hat in a bathtub.
The
He is
lob-
a Falstaff.
the lobster in the bathtub, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or it might have been, yeah, you're right. It was a full costume.
It was a
wasn't just
full
hat.
lobster costume.
Yeah, see? He's a Falstaff.
Is he?
Yes. He would play an excellent Falstaff. He would.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I cannot stress how much I appreciate actors who can actually change their micro expressions.
Like Andrew Scott.
Sure.
Moriarty.
Which one?
BBC.
Yes.
Where you
Him.
can just watch the crazy, how do you do that? And he just kind of flicks it on. You can
The
watch
light off,
this-
light off,
light
light
on,
off, light
light
off. Yeah, micro expressions. Not just body language. Micro expressions.
I know I talk about him a lot more
Which
than
I don't know if that's the actual term.
micro expressions.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally the term. All the little face changes where my face isn't going to change, but my face is changing.
Which is a micro expression.
Right in front of you.
Yeah. What's not said, as important, is what is said. Show,
Yeah.
not tell. Which is why Shakespeare should be plays.
Which is
rather
why
than-
Shakespeare should be plays and not... If I had
Yeah.
just read that out before, I'd never seen it played, I'd be like,
Yep.
what the fuck are you talking about?
I think, once again, that's why a lot of people cough to death and die.
I mean, the consumption was very prevalent even then.
Yeah. I can't wait till this is over. So, it's why a lot of people that grew up
fuck, if you hate
around...
Shakespeare that much. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
All right, let's do this.
Let's do this.
No, I think that's why when you see it versus when you read it, it helps a lot, especially with people who don't read into what was happening at the time. When it gives it that life and that expression, and where it's not just words, it's enunciation and the lows and the highs, and
Texture. And that's something another thing too.
it's tangible.
Good word. Also, there's a lot of... I used to be very much a purist. I thought that the best kind of Shakespeare was period piece Shakespeare, and I still do. I still love me some period piece Shakespeare, but modernizing it, setting it in anything after the Elizabethan era, makes it more real, makes it more tangible, more reachable for the average audience member.
The best rendition that was true to the script of Romeo and Juliet is the Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes version.
Yep, with John Leguizamo.
Cry.
And Baz Luhrmann and the dad from Lost. I stopped watching in season 4 when they killed Charlie.
Okay, I don't remember the show Lost very well.
Oh, well.
Once again,
Mary from Lord of the Rings.
those bastards, those sons of bitches.
Right?
How dare you?
How dare you?
How dare you? Who gave you the right, as producers and directors and the funding for that show, who gave you the right?
Off Dominic Monaghan. Like, who? Fuck you.
You sons of bitches.
You sons of bitches. Yeah. They kill him by drowning, like, somebody's in...
I mean, that's the least painful death.
No, I disagree.
Oh, when you drowned, if you just accept it, the only thing that causes pain with drowning is when you're trying to not breathe in the water. Once you breathe in the water, you're fine.
Yes, but...
Okay, explain what happened.
Most people have a self-preservation instinct where they go, maybe I shouldn't be a fish.
Well, I mean, depending on the scenario.
So the scenario...
Better to drown or not to drown. Because once you inhale that water, it's going to be the same as if you were, running out of oxygen. So you just have to make sure you can make it to air in time to puke up all that water out of your lungs. And anyway, continue.
You have some life stories I would love to hear one of these days.
Do I? Have I lived?
You have, apparently over 100 years.
I was born January 24th, 1900.
Fucking Aquariuses.
Yeah. Hold on. I'm going to remember this. Air sign.
Yes!
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. Because Mercury is in Gatorade.
Please say that forever.
My friend on one of their sites had a little embroidery thing, and it says Mercury is in Gatorade or some shit. And I'm stealing that.
Ooh.
The only reason I actually knew it was retrograde is because there's a song that says My Heart's in Retrograde. And
It's
which makes sense because of how stars work. It's retrograde, the science, versus retrograde, the science.
Yeah.
Ding ding.
I think the only reason my interest in astrology is tolerable is because I'm like, it's a thing that I know stuff about.
Yeah.
It's Tuesday.
Like Shakespeare.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
more stock is put into Shakespeare than astrology and Mercury being in Gatorade. So
I feel like my response to astrology is that Lisa Simpson meme with the potato where it's just like, not Lisa, Marge. I just think it's neat.
it's good.
I'm not like, oh, let me get your natal chart so I can tell you what kind of career you should have,
Let
or
me tell you what
whether
star
we're gonna...
princess you were in your previous life.
I mean, if you're willing
Only
to pay...
$24.99.
I was gonna say, if you're gonna pay me some money, I will tell
6
you
payments. Did I mention it was
$24.99.
6? Oh no, I'm sorry. 12 payments of $24.99.
plus interest.
And then shipping and handling is another 12 payments. No, so you don't put a lot of stock into it, and I appreciate that.
I'm not like, hey Nick, do you know what today is? Today with your chart says that. Shut up, Lilli.
No, that's one of the things where the squirt bottle would happen.
No.
Yeah.
Although I love how whenever you talk about someone I disapprove of, I'm like, do you know when their birthday is?
Or you and Seth MacFarlane.
He's a fucking Scorpio and I goddamn knew it. Of all the Christmas songs you choose to sing, Baby It's Cold Outside is the one, like, and that song's not as, like, creepy as everyone made it out to be for a while.
You have to remember the times and the place, and which is important with Shakespeare.
Which is important.
Time and place.
Time and place.
Place and a time.
Which also makes me happy because it was, like, such a catchy song. And I like that people are like, hey. No, she's doing this on purpose. She wants to stay, but she needs an alibi. And he's like, oh, let's make up an alibi together so we can shtup and nobody will look at us funny because it's the 1950s and people still care if grown adults have sex.
Well, babies were just found in cabbage patches.
No.
Like
Air delivery.
Oh, storks.
Air delivery.
Storks, yes.
At least.
Because that's not creepier.
Just a baby falling from the sky.
Yeah.
Is that why our cousin's kind of stupid?
Dropped him off on that nice piece of cement we just put out. No one updated them. It's fine. What happened to your face?
Stork Prime needs you to update your delivery
membership
address.
Yeah.
Is your shipping date, there's your shipping address the same as your billing address?
Yeah. That'd be awkward.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that in regards to babies.
Yeah. Just random baby delivery. This is yours. No, it's not. I just moved here.
Frank, what did you do?
Who did you do?
Oh.
All right. Well, it's getting about closing time, so
You got about 10 minutes to get out.
Just you, Kevin.
just Kevin. What?
Daisy, get him out of the trash can!
See? I told you. Trash panda.
Can't be a trash panda. He doesn't have clean hands.
It's true. I've seen some of the things his hands have been in. Now that we've spread the pathogens, it's biological warfare. We're quarantined.
Every man for themselves. Dive! Dive!
Save yourselves!
The humanity!
Put down the phone and don't call the cops.
Hello, you brave souls who made it to the end of this.
If you like what you've heard and you'd like to learn more, you can find our social media links in the show description.
And despite what Kevin says, the hounds are not for sale, so stop asking.